Hello there, my name is Richard. Like to talk about animation, and today we talk about Villainous, specifically Sub versus Dub. Yes, believe it or not, this is the first time hearing this, that Villainous actually has an English version. But the only problem is it's sort of region block. Why? It's because of the merger of Warner Brothers and Discovery. Because of this merger, they're now allowed to actually transfer the English stuff to America. At least for maybe a year or two more after they figure out all the paperwork and now finally allowed to actually transfer the Spanish in the English version to America. For now, you just need to wait. But looking for you, where I am, I'm allowed me to actually watch both different languages. Of course, I'm gonna do is sort of tell you what's the difference of the English and Spanish version, which is the superior, which is the weakest. But be honest, there is no difference because at the very end, it's all about your preference, and that's really is. If you prefer the sub version, you can watch the sub. You prefer the dub version, you prefer a dub. But of course, there is some drawbacks because this sort of kind of your own choice. Because sometimes the translation is not the best, but sometimes the translation is better than the original. The very end is just sort of how they just translate it. Now, let's get started. All the voice actors you hear in the English or Spanish version are basically the same voice actors, just some of them just change because the region they actually are, or they actually can speak multiple different languages. In fact, only about 5 different actors got changed because they do not speak the other language, specifically Missy, Dr. Flood, Dementia, Phonombra, and Sunblast. Yeah, I think I'm missing maybe 1 or 2 more, but besides that, that's usually the main cast of the whole show got changed to American voice actors because their controversial voice actors in Spanish could not speak English. So this is the ones I probably focused the most, but besides that, let's start with Black Cat, voiced by Alan, the creator of the whole series. Now his performance, well, it's good in Spanish. Even also the English version, he was pretty good actually doing the English version of the Black Cat. But the only problem is there was some complaint in Mexico that his Spanish was sort of not perfect. Like he can speak perfect Spanish. As the only problem is his performance, is sort of how he delivers some of the words, kind of hard to understand. But usually it's sort of the people who don't have basically training or used to go to an airport, hear different languages with different accents. Those are the people who have no experience understanding kind of mumble sort of Spanish, in other words. But at the very end, his Spanish is good. It's just sort of he needs to be more clear. But at the very end, he sort of fixed that in the rest of the whole series and make it more clear his own Spanish. The English was also pretty good. I can't really complain. There were really much differences, just probably sort of words that you probably be okay with or not okay with. Depends of your opinion, in other words. Now, a second character probably be the most changed would be Dr. Flood. Dr. Flood in Spanish, she's sort of a Mexican kind of co-worker who liked to kiss his ass of his own boss. But because some of the language played with his sort of words, he's basically a suck up. But he has sort of tendency to sort of give his boss little nicknames. But interesting enough, those nicknames you could actually sort of interpret it 2 different ways. One who actually is scared his boss trying to kiss his ass and make him happy, or he just sort of maybe gay. Once more, it's sort of how you interpret it in Spanish. The English version never moved that specific way of saying things of Dr. Flood. His sort of petness, his sucking upness, they're more streamlined because it's not really vague enough in English. In Spanish, you can play that kind of character sort of vague enough so you can reinterpret it in your own way. He was just too scared, or maybe he is interested, or he actually doesn't know what to do, just panicking, just saying things. Once again, the voice actor of Dr. Flood sounds more your own interpretation. The English version, they couldn't do that because some of the words sound a little bit too straight gay. And that's nothing wrong with that. It's that they kind of lose the main point of Dr. Flood, that sort of vagueness. That's why I think they kind of eliminate a few specific words that doesn't really make sense in English. This is sort of an English problem now, words, because if you do that, he just sound not scared of Black Cat in other words. So I can understand why they remove that sort of sucking upness sort of phrasing that, yeah, it kind of misses some of the parts of Dr. Flood, but very again, he still get there. He still scared him. He still respects Black Cat. And of course, the voice actor English version did a great performance, even had to remove some of the dialogue. Now, the second character I want to talk about is actually Dementia. Dementia, how to describe her, she is destruction pure incarnate. In Spanish, she's sort of crazy out there, but believe it or not, voiced of the same person who made the mixed version of My Little Pony, Pinkie Pie. That she actually did a great job doing that character. She got hired to do Dementia, and you actually have that sort of hyperistic, sort of childish, but at the same time very dangerous matter how she devotes herself to Black Cat. And that is a really great performance. But in English version, they do the same thing, but never get to the same height. I mean, she does a great job, but because the Spanish version has so been used to doing sort of copy the American version of a Pinkie Pie, that she relied on that hyperness and evolved it to something different and unique. So you can't really compare it to Pinkie Pie and Dementia side by side. And the voice actor trying to copy this, the English version trying to copy Dementia, does a decent job, but it almost doesn't get there fully. Not all the time, but she barely gets there. But once more, it's not a complaint, it's the fact is how the performance is copied. And I feel the American version does a decent enough job to doing that. Now let's talk about 505. And I really can't say much about 505 because it was voiced by a YouTuber called Multiplier, if I'm correct, that he does the same job, but the only problem is he doesn't really need to talk, just muffle, so there's not much to say. Now let's talk about, I think the most changed character of all Villainous is Sunblast. Of course, in the show, he only appears on the first episode. He actually dedicated a small mini-series, comic books of a Sunblast development. But how they interpret this to English is very different how to interpret it in Spanish. In Spanish, he's sort of a bully, but at the same time more like an aggressive, I want to say jock. Almost, I want to say kind of like a himbo, but more like a jock, kind of broness sort of a vibe, but in Mexican version of it. And in English, they sort of removed that broness, did it more like a surfer kind of tone that it doesn't really mash well to the character because he's sort of a jock. So they removed that part of him to make it a surfer. I guess it's probably more to relate to that character, at least in my opinion. But at the same time, I'm 100% sure it's because of the dialogue was given in Spanish. Decided to go that direction. In a way, it doesn't really work because I'm so used to hearing that sort of kind of gym bro kind of vibe that it doesn't really match the surfer type of vibe that much. I'm not saying the American version of Sunblast didn't do a good job. He did what he had because was given to the voice director. And remember, Alan doesn't have a choice or word who he chooses how what to change to change. Very end is just translating the whole script to English. Now, Phenomenal is probably the few that didn't change that much, especially just have one episode dedicated of her that actually calling Black Hat services, that she stays the same, that didn't really change that much. But of course, there is the final character I do want to talk about, specifically Missy, because Missy is probably the most difficult to make it work in English because multi-layered she really is, because she is basically sort of a bimbo, but at the very end she is probably the most smartest person in the room. How she sort of eliminated people and always trying to be sort of gimmicky, always trying to be the cute soft girl who needs protection, but at the very end she's just lying and also wants more power, more respect, especially the person she loved the most. But the only problem is that person doesn't see her who she is. And the fact the person who cares about her is right in front of her face, but she very deny it because she is sort of destroyed that relationship. Even pretending that did not happen, she just wants to reset back in time, pretending that did not happen. Once again, this character is multi-layered, especially how she changed her voice back and forth, trying to give a sort of illusion. Once again, this is the reason why I say Missy is very hard to pull off, especially her dialogue. Her dialogue is more like kind of valley girl, but also sort of babyish, sort of I'm sorry I'm being mean to you, protect me, kind of girlish, but not girlish, more very feminine. And this is the reason why people love her, because she kind of crossed all the check boxes being a multi-layered character. In English, the voice actor had to actually copy that exact performance. And the only problem is that's really hard to pull off, especially how limited Missy really is in the show. She only showed up maybe in one episode or two, but even that, she was like in 5 or 8 minutes total. So yeah, I can see why the voice actually sort of did struggle in English, because the English version, the first couple minutes, I couldn't believe her to be Missy, but it took a little while, like a minute or two, to actually nail the performance. I'm kind of disappointed they have longer Missy, because it's the type of character you need multiple episodes to just hear her move and talk to understand her performances. But the American version did a great version. Even that she took a little while to get there, she got there, and that itself deserves applause. Even that I wish they did it more, kind of a little bit more feminine, kind of girlish, dumbish, a little bit more. What I mean that they removed certain specific words she used to be more kind of feminine and kind of cute, like bonbon, like a little feminine way to say sort of kind of cute, or you're my lover or something like that. That they removed some of the words in English and they made it more streamlined, more feminine, and they took some of it out to make her understand her basic concept. And that was sort of maybe a bad move, but once more I understand, because some of the words she used in Spanish doesn't really translate well to English, or doesn't have the equivalent translated of that words. And that's the problem, basically translating different languages. Sometimes they don't have the word you're saying, or if they do, it doesn't have the same power or meaning of the original language. But at the very end, she got there. It's just minor complaints. But other than that, honestly, I can't say much. I think I already talked all the character I wanted to talk about. Has one question: do you think the Spanish and English version, do you like or prefer either or? Do you think it's the best performers, or you just don't care, you just like it how it is? Tell me down below, let me know. I got nothing else to say, just thank you for watching, don't forget to subscribe, and have a wonderful day.